Hello and welcome to White Glove Reviews. In this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to conduct another experiment about renting a maxed silver deck. And the plan is in order to play a maximum level deck for Silver League, what you need is, of course, you need the 15,000 collection power, but you also need a level 4 summon, a level 4 rare summoner, or a level 2 legendary summoner. And then this will let you play level 5 commons, level 4 rares, level 3 epics, and level 2 legendaries. So since I'm going to be playing water, what I figured I would do is step one is, of course, to figure out what my summoner is going to be. Now, I've kind of run into a little bit of a problem. The problem that I've run into is actually renting the summoner. Because if we go to Peak Monsters, and we look for water summoners. So my plan initially was to play Bortus, because Bortus seems like just a really solid answer to all of the Alaric decks that are out there that you're just going to run into over and over again. The problem comes in with how expensive a level 4 Bortus is. And as you can see right here, it's 74 DEC for one. And like the ratio is 13 to 1 DEC, 13 collection power to 1 DEC, which is just really bad. It's like this gold one is actually almost affordable. The issue with that, though, is actually I could get it. So maybe that's the plan. Maybe I'll just suck it up and have to pay 128 DEC for that summoner. Anyway, I'm going to continue with the rest of my rentals, and I'll pick things up a little farther down the line. And I'll show you my plan for what I've rented. And also, I may periodically, through the recording of this, complain about how difficult rentals have gotten. Okay, I have finished my rentals, and it took, looking at the start time versus the end time, it looks like it took me about 20 minutes. I generally knew what I was after when I was renting, and so, it helped a bit. Now, one thing I should point out is, wow, renting has gotten difficult and expensive. So if you noticed, initially I started at 1,000 DEC, and I'm currently at 2. And I wasn't actually able to get all the cards I was after. I was able to get most of them. So let me show you what I picked up, and I'll go into more detail. If you want to pause the video right here, you can see the prices I paid for everything. And since it cost me roughly 1,000 DEC, if we go back here and we refresh my page, so 1,000 DEC, and my current power is 77,500 and change. So you figure about 77.5 collection power per DEC. That is sort of rough. It really is. Now, I rented, like, I legitimately rented top end stuff except for the last few things. Let me show you what I rented. I'll show you from here. Rented to me, and we'll turn on the little gold thing. Okay. So I rented. Now, as I was renting, you may notice there's a lot of gold in here. And the times when I rented gold over not gold was when the collection power to DEC ratio was just so much better than the normal version. Now, the core of my team, the best way I could, okay, so the core of my team is Bortus. He's number 1. And then Torhelio and Jin O'Shaughnessy and Wavesmith, and then Axemaster, wherever he's hiding out. Yeah, and then the Axemaster. Those are the big ones. I would say next in line is probably Coral Wraith, and then the rest of them are kind of just, and the Crustacean King. Crustacean King is definitely MVP, plus you figure you pick up the one ranged with him. Now, the other things, I rented a Spineback Worm, Spineback Turtle, and the Water Elemental, and the Sea Monster, because they're just good general cards to have. And the Medusa, A leveled up Medusa is ridiculous because she has stun. Stun is so overwhelmingly important. Now, the Lobster Randomus. Anyway, this one right here. This one is because he works out to be a pretty good, like, main tank or secondary tank, and with Reflect, he's pretty good. I rented these three just to give me some more generic options in general when the points get super high, and also when I pull, one of the battles where you're not allowed to use the water splinter. Now, one thing I did is I rented a Naga Wavemaster not at max level to test out. I was kind of curious. I did run a level 3 one, so he got the +1 to his range, so he's a 2 damage instead of 3, or instead of 1. The other thing I did is I rented a Demented Shark, a Feasting Seaweed, and a Pellicore Bandit. And I'm thinking I will just have these. These were all relatively cheap to rent. I think, well, I can tell you what they were. They cost, Pellicore Bandit was like 2, for level 5 was like 2.6, Demented Shark 6.9, and the Feasting Seaweed, which I got at level 3, was 0.6. And I got those just because I want to test them out and see if there's any interesting battles where I can go with, say, Demented Shark, Feasting Seaweed, Sea Monster, Pellicore Bandit, and I don't know, Torhelio in one of the ones where like everyone gets sneak, or range can attack from any spot, that kind of not melee can attack from any spot. So yeah, the big question though now is I have enough points for Silver 2, right? I have enough points for Silver 1. So the question is now, will this get me into Silver 1? And will it make me back 998 DEC? That's going to be a tough one. I can tell you that my experiences with rentals so far, like lately, maybe the last week or so, rentals just feel like they've skyrocketed in price. And anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this video up in a little bit after I've had a chance to advance some through my day. And I'm sitting at 100% capture rate to start. So I think we're going to try and burn this down to very, very low levels. See how far we have to go down to, or if we can get paid back. Okay, checking back in a little bit later in the day. I've been playing kind of just, here and there as the day's been progressing. So my DEC capture rate's down to 68%. And I started with 2 DEC out of my 1,000 I started with. Like I spent 998. So right now I'm sitting at 498. So I've made, roughly 500 back, about halfway. Now also, because of how much I ended up renting, I rented into Silver 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to claim my quest reward and then see how I do with that. Now, for the quest rewards, the EV for each chest is about 55 DEC. It's supposed to be. So theoretically, this claiming of the quest reward is worth 220 DEC. Based upon how EV works, almost always it's bad, but every now and then it's phenomenal. So I don't know if you want to factor this into your calculations of is it profitable or not. But basically, I'm using 4 lottery tickets here to see if I win something. So let's go ahead and claim these rewards while we're waiting. And also, my win rate so far is not too bad. I've won, let's see, let me count up while this is doing its thing. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. I played 39 games. And I've won, I've lost 9. So I'm looking at about a 75% win rate in that ballpark. And I can tell you that of those 39 games, 5, 10, 16 of them have been where I couldn't use my water splinter. So about a third. So let's open these things up and see how we do. We did terrible. So anyway, let's see what my new quest is going to be. Hopefully the quest isn't going to be too terrible and I'll be able to do it without costing myself too many rating points. I can tell you that so far playing this deck, I've had a number of games, and toward the end, I'm going to show you some interesting battles that I played that I kind of, well, I just made note of because I thought they were kind of interesting. But my overall experience so far is the leveled cards make a massive difference. A snipe quest. Do I have playable water? Snipe. Yeah, I can probably get through that. That won't be too terrible. So anyway, I'm going to stop here, and I'll pick up later on in the day with basically the final resolution of this, and also some interesting battles from the day of playing. Okay, I've had a bit more time to play throughout the day, and as you can see right now, I'm sitting at 806 DEC, and I've run my capture rate down to about 50%. So let's go over to Peak Monsters and look at my cards, and let's see. Okay, so I have about 17 hours left on my rentals. So I'm reasonably certain I can get up above 1,000 DEC tomorrow sometime. I'm going to let the capture rate recover for a while. So I did finish my second quest, so let's go ahead and claim the sniper reward quest. I got to tell you that getting through that sniper quest, I had a much better win rate until I kept just sucking at the snipe quest. It was not my friend. Alright, so once again, the EV of chests continues to not be so amazing for me. So right now, looking at win rates, let's see. I have played 20, 36, 46, 56, 66, 71. I played 75 games so far, and I won 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. I won 39 games where water was available, where the water splinter was available. I won 9 games when it was not. I lost 7 games when the water splinter was available, and I lost 19 games when it wasn't. So I'm looking at a win percentage of, what was that, 70, was that 71, and 10, 20, so maybe 65, 66% win rate, in that range. And when I had access to water, my win rate was much better. So my win rate, so I won, what was that, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 39, 39, 41, 46. So I played 46 games where I was able to play water, and I lost 7 of them. So that's probably close to 80% if you can play water, which is kind of interesting. So I do have a couple of battles I want to share with y'all as well before I wrap this up. The first battle I want to show you is just the first battle I played. And I thought it was kind of an interesting battle. And what it does is it shows some of the things that are going on. One thing I want to point out that's really, really impressive is the Medusa with her ability to stun. She picks it up at 3rd level. It's really, really, it does a lot of work. The other thing is the leveled up Axemaster does 3 damage instead of 2, and that extra 1 damage makes a big difference when he shoots twice. I'm also pretty partial to the Coral Wraith. The 2 magic damage and sneak attack for a 4-mana creature, it's really, really good. I can understand why he is as expensive as he is. And you notice that stun effect pops up pretty regularly. So anyway, that's that battle. That was the first battle I played when I rented the cards. Alright, the next battle I want to show you is this one. And this one is a no magic battle. And it kind of illustrates what I had for the sea monster is sort of the sea monster and the demented shark and some of the demented shark, the strangling kelp, and the Pelicorp bandit were kind of my backup plan. If there was a battle that you couldn't play magic, my plan was that I would use that combination probably with an Axe Master, just because Axe Masters are really good, and go from there. This next battle was one that I fully expected to lose, and it surprised me how the battle went. And this battle ends up going for much longer than I was expecting it to. Also, I sadly forgot my chicken for this battle. And it's really bad when you forget your chicken. It's one of those unfortunate things that happens. But it didn't play out the way I was expecting it to. It really didn't. And part of it, I think, is just that the sea monster does such a huge chunk of damage. And like in this example, what's happening is the sea monster is... the healing for the sea monster is keeping up with the damage that the flesh golem does. And the Pellicore bandit and the... I always forget this guy's name. The pirate captain and the crustacean king, they're slowly whittling him down. And it's one of those things, there's like sort of a state of equilibrium that happens, but the flesh golem is slowly losing just a little teeny bit of ground every time. And, it's particularly bad when like one of them misses and it just sets them back. But like they finally, I think right here, yeah. No, that was the miss. That was the miss when I watched this battle before. I was like, oh, come on. So, but like eventually they kind of catch up, and things do finally resolve in the favor of the water team, like right there. And so I expected to lose that one, but it was kind of a surprising outcome. Now, the last battle that I want to show y'all... well, actually, I have two battles. This is a Little League battle that I did, and I kind of just thought it was interesting. Now, one thing that I noticed, and I'll talk about it in just a moment when I get to actually the actual cards that I rented. The Naga Windmaster kind of seems like he should be better than he is. And I really want to play with him some more and just see. But I don't feel he really got a chance to shine in the teams that I built today. I can tell you what did shine was the Spineback Turtle with thorns. It was pretty impressive. Okay. The last battle I want to show you is one that I kind of just thought was interesting from a mechanics standpoint. Now, what's interesting about this is one of the conditions for the battle was explosive weaponry, where everything has the blast ability. And what I want to point out is I want to point out the interaction between reflect, because like the lobster damus and the prismatic entity both have reflect, and so the interaction you get with explosive weaponry and reflect is kind of interesting, and you should watch what happens to the creatures as they're shooting at them. Like, as you can see, it gets reflected back, and every time the explosive weaponry causes them to shoot like the row back, like each time that they hit both the lobster damus and the prismatic entity, they get kind of like double hit. It doesn't matter so much for the Jinn, but it was pretty critical for the other one. And it's one of those things, like I just thought the interaction in this battle was kind of interesting. And they do eventually polish them off, thanks to the power of the Axe Master, pretty much as usual. Because like the Axe Master does so much damage. Okay, so the big questions to answer with this is it profitable? And the answer is kind of, sort of. I mean, like, I'm going to, like, when I finish up playing this 24-hour rental tomorrow sometime, I'm gonna, like, as the capture rate returns, I'll definitely get above. I'll definitely get back above 1,000 DEC. So I didn't lose money in that respect. And technically, I got a chance to open 8 chests, and the chests have an EV of, basically 440 for the 8 of them. As you can see, my EV, I didn't get the EV from the chests, but that's just how EV works. So I guess it's profitable. Now, card wise, let's look at the card. Let's look at all the cards that I rented for this. Rented to me, and I'll go over the ones that I thought were exceptional and the ones not so much. Okay, the Spineback Turtle being leveled up to 5 is really, really good. He does a lot of damage. There was actually an all monsters have sneak attack damage battle where I stuck him in the last row, and he chewed up a number of my enemy's creatures. And the Crustacean King is just another staple. I think it's important to have a sea monster available just in case you need one. I like the Feasting Seaweed. I didn't get a fully leveled up one when I was renting cards. I kind of just wanted to test it. The Demented Shark with the Feasting Seaweed and the Pellicore Bandit and the Sea Monster. Like these 4, this one, this one, this one, and this one, they make a decent combination. And you can also figure if you throw in Torhelio, having him have a 6 is also not terrible. Medusa is amazing. Her having the ability to stun is just critical. Now, the thing that really surprised me was the Water Elemental. That extra point of range damage that he gets when he's leveled up to 4, he either gets it 3 or 4, but he's really good. The Nago Windmaster, I don't know. I kind of debate about him. I mean, I don't think he had a chance to shine in this particular setup. It may be in a different metagame where there wasn't so much magic, then he might be different. Bortus was the MVP because I played against a lot of different magic decks. One weird thing that kind of surprised me is I didn't throw in the Venari Wavesmith as much as I would have expected. I kind of thought he would be an auto-include all the time, but I ended up going with things that were more impactful because, again, I just had so many fights against Magic where the armor doesn't matter. Now, the Coral Wraith is really good. He is, again, another exceptional card. He feels more expensive than he should be. Torhelio is a good tank. He's a really, really good tank in a Magic strong meta. Axemaster, wow. Axemaster's really good. The Lobster Damus, I kind of used him as like a third tank sometimes. What I would do is I'd put Torhelio, him, and then the Djinn in there. And he wasn't a must rent for this. The Djinn definitely though was a must rent. He's really good. Now these three neutral cards, the Sandworm, the Prismatic Energy, and the Furious Chicken. These 2 weren't leveled up at all, and the Sandworm, I just grabbed a cheap gold one because it happened to be the best DEC for collection power ratio. So I was very happy with this Prismatic Energy, and I would definitely rent one again. I think these 3 cards are probably decent additions to anyone's repertoire of just neutral cards they have available in their account. The Sandworms are cheap. Like, a non-gold one is like $2. The Prismatic Energy is more expensive, as is the Chicken. So I would say these aren't super critical. But I'd pick up a Sandworm at like $2. They're not bad, and it's good to just have one. Plus, it should be playable in the new Modern format coming up. And they're not printing them anymore, so it's one of those things. I think there's going to be a point where Sandworms kind of just disappear or get expensive, and $2 is pretty much nothing. And again, it makes your deck better. It makes all of your decks better. And if you have the 99-point battle come up, you can just throw a Sandworm in, and it does better. So if I had to pick if I had to minimize my rentals, like what I would pare the rentals down to, I would say Spineback Turtle, Crustacean King, Sea Monster, these three for sure. The Medusa is really good, and if you had to not rent one, that's tough. I would try to rent a Medusa. I would try to rent a Water Elemental. Not so much the Naga Windmaster. He probably has his place, but not here. Bortus, I mean, he's the summoner. You got to have him. The Wavesmith, I actually, if it's one of those things, like, the thing is, he's probably the cheapest rental. He's probably one of the cheapest rentals here, with the exception like Pelacor Bandit and stuff. He's very cheap. So I would probably rent him. But if you had to cut something, you know, I mean, like, he didn't see as much play as some of the other cards. The Coral Wraith is expensive. I mean, even a non-gold one was expensive. But he was a really good card. Good, just general staple card. Torhelio, I'd say, is a must-rent. Axemaster, you know how I feel about Axemaster. I wouldn't necessarily say Lobster Damas is required. Jin, definitely required. And, you know, these if they're cheap. This one, just go buy one. These two if they're cheap. Anyway, if you have any questions or suggestions, or if I can help with anything, let me know down in the comments. And if you have any suggestions for things you'd like to see or like for me to try, or suggestions you think would be excellent for this deck, please let me know down in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And I hope you all have an excellent day.